And a very warm welcome to Gaming News Weekly, your weekly news show every Friday at 5 p.m. with, as always, your hosts, me, I'm Rich, and my great friend from across the county, Tabs.
BArcadians, and thank you for that introduction, Rich.
I'm not sure, why was that so funny?
Just wait, I don't know where you got from across the county from.
Well, we live in the same county, but we're like sort of opposite ends of it. So
it's facts, mate. It just surprised me is all.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So we will get into the news shortly. As always, 3 news stories and everything else, because quite a busy week in the games industry this week. But let's first of all talk about what we've been playing this week, as we do every single week. So, Tabs, what have you been playing this week?
Same boring story for the last, 3 or 4 weeks. The only game I seem to be playing is during the day while I'm home working, and it's Pro Evolution Soccer 2021.
Just to interject, so while you're at home working, you're playing Pro Evo. Do
I'm
bosses
on my
know
lunch
about
break.
this? Do your bosses
on
know
my
about
lunch
this?
break. I'm not
okay.
playing it throughout the day. It's just I can quickly get a few matches in on a lunch break. And yeah, I've just got my Master League team. I've now got like a young Leo Messi, young Ronaldo, Ribery, Robin. I've got basically like an all-star team, and you grow them, don't you, sort of? It's a bit like Pokemon RPG in terms of football. Mm. So, I mean, I'm totally done with it though, mate. I told you I banged a team for 11-0 this week.
Wow.
And that's on the regular, like at least probably like 6 to 8-0 most matches. Clearly I need to up the difficulty, but I've just got used to scoring goals and it's fun. Mm. But I need to put it down, but it's like it's the only games out that I've really got. For some reason, when it comes to starting a new game, I just haven't got it in me to do that because of all the other stuff I've got going on. But, you know, there's some exciting news on your side with that, I think, isn't there? Tell us what you've been mostly playing this week and what you propose to be playing soon, perhaps.
What have I mostly been playing this week? I don't think I've played anything this week, have I?
No, but I'm referring to a game you told me you were thinking about buying for the PS5.
So obviously A Plague's Tale has been announced for a PS5, got really good reviews. I ummed and ahed about getting it for the PC a while ago and I ended up not getting it. But I think with it coming on the PS5 and the ease of which that makes it to play in terms of not having to boot stuff up and that kind of thing, I definitely think I'm very strongly thinking about getting this, and I think it was a game I could really get into. It looks gorgeous, so I'm really interested about that. But I don't actually think I've played any games this week, which is a shocker, I know. But what with the football going on this week and all the other things that I've got going on, it's just been super busy. So yeah, it's just one of them weeks where there's not a lot going on. But yeah, hopefully more gaming for me next week or maybe this weekend. So go on, Tabs.
No, I was just going to say, let us know what you've been playing, Barcadians. We are clearly slacking, so you'll have to compensate for us. But yeah, drop us in the comments and take us away, sir.
Absolutely. So we're going to start this week with, if I can get the mouse to work, I'm going to start this week with Super Nintendo OLED. See what I did there? Very clever, Tabs. And this comes from The Guardian. Nintendo has announced a new version of the Nintendo Switch due out on the 8th of October this year. The Nintendo Switch OLED model will have a larger and brighter 7-inch screen, a wide kickstand for tabletop play, enhanced audio in handheld mode, and 64GB of storage for games. Like the 2017 Nintendo Switch, it can be slotted into a dock for playing on a TV at home or taken out and played as a handheld console. The TV dock will also have a wired LAN port, an important addition for those who like to play competitively online. An upgraded model of Nintendo's successful console has been rumoured for the past year, which you've heard about multiple weeks on this very show, and at one point expected to be announced during E3 last June. It will be available on the same day as Metroid Dread, the most anticipated game in Nintendo's 2021 lineup. So this is like a Switch Pro, but not really. It sounds like it's got the same main hardware, same chips, but a better screen with the OLED, which is welcome, and I'm guessing a slightly better battery life on that, but that is unconfirmed. I don't know whether I've seen any stats for whether that is actually a thing. So interesting. I'll be honest, for me personally, I was a little disappointed. I don't think there's enough new here to justify upgrading to it, which is a shame, because I thought if what was rumoured to be the Switch Pro and all of the additional things coming to that, I felt like that could have been a real, like a decent upgrade and worthy of upgrading, but I'm not so sure on this. What's your take, Tabs?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I was really disappointed. I can understand that perhaps because of the chip shortages, maybe that's had an effect on what may have been proposed as a true Switch Pro. But as you say, this is like a Switch Pro Lite. Well, it's really just a refresh, isn't it? More than anything. I mean, I suppose I can get it from a business perspective. I think there are 85 million consoles sold now, Switch consoles sold. And what are they doing with this? Well, I suppose it's kind of churning the existing install base for the Switch, because there's going to be a certain percentage of current Switch owners who think, oh, I like an OLED screen, I like some of those quality of life features, I will upgrade. And then they get to churn a bit more cash out of them. And I suppose it's like a premium-esque sort of model, which gives them an excuse to advertise the Switch again, to perhaps twist the arms of those who haven't yet bought a Switch but have been thinking about it, and they go, oh, look, that's shiny new Switch, nice OLED display, nice little features here, go on, I'll buy it now. So I get where they're coming from. They're selling a lot of consoles, don't need to try too hard, they just need to keep momentum, and anything else to just keep it that install base ticking over is good for them. But I think the rumours didn't help, of course, that we heard there was going to be this 4K docked function. We heard rumours of DLSS and how the chip, the performance was going to be upgraded. And I think there is, especially if you tend to use this as a docked home console, not so much handheld, it does well as a handheld, but if you use it docked, when you compare it to the likes of what you see on PS5 and Xbox Series consoles, I mean, it's just not comparable. The performance in terms of resolution is down. You'd be lucky to get 1080p, and frame rates, you're lucky if you're getting 30 FPS. And even first-party recent games like Calamity, what was it called, mate? The Zelda kind of spin-off, the Warriors game, Age of Calamity. That apparently has some shocking.
Was it not called Hyrule Warriors?
Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, I think that's what it was called.
Sorry.
But the frame rate issues on that apparently are awful, and that's sort of a first-party game.
Absolutely.
So that kind of tells you how outdated the hardware is that they're using. And we know that's been Nintendo's approach for a long time. They use off-the-shelf, like old-school products, hardware in their consoles, because they want to save money and they focus on the games. And probably increase their profits or their margin. But I think now, more than ever, for me, as a Nintendo fan, as an enthusiast for the Switch and for the future of the Switch, they've proven this is a successful platform. For me, there was every motivation to be a bit more bullish as a company and to really invest in that platform by giving a major Switch Pro refresh and really cranking up the hardware capability, still bridging it. So, like with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox, I forget what it was called now, was it One X? They had that kind of, it could still play the old games, and the original consoles could still play the new games, but it just gives it more relevance in the market and relative parity to next gen consoles, which will help it no end in encouraging ports, conversions of newer games, which surely is what they want to be doing to keep it relevant. So anyway, mate, I'm ranting. I could go on, but I think that's the most of my points. How do you react to that? Just
as a final takeaway of that, I think the most disappointing thing from what I've read on a lot of things is the fact that it does, even when docked, it's not 4K. That's almost become like the standard that we expect from modern consoles, moving forward. The latest consoles are doing that, and to release another piece of hardware which is supposed to be, an upgrade, and to still not offer an additional like boost in resolution. I don't know, it just seems like it's missing the point a little bit. But like you say, I'm sure it'll be very successful, which I guess is ultimately the problem in some respects to why Nintendo continue to do what they do.
Yeah, this is it. And I just think at this point, these Switch Pro rumours, I think that has to be a Switch 2 now, doesn't it? Surely they can't release an actual Switch Pro next year.
No.
On the back of this. That seems strange to me. I mean, they could, but yeah, just disappointed, my friend, because, you know, we're waiting too long now for Nintendo's killer apps on the Switch.
Yeah.
Whereas if it had more relative parity to next gen, I'm sure we'd be seeing some of the next gen games, third parties, released on the Switch at the same time. And it helps to fill in those gaps in their pipeline. And just thinking now, I can't remember the last time I picked up the Switch. It's been a while. And I can't foresee, well, actually, I've got Skyward Sword HD on order. But apart from that, you know, there was a time at the start when you couldn't get me off my Switch. So
yeah, I think that's the thing. For a long time, Nintendo's like USP has not been their fantastic hardware. It's been the fact that the games are amazing. The games made by Nintendo are incredible. And while that, broadly speaking, is still the same, there's less of them, like significantly less of them. You know, you might be waiting 2 years for another one to come along that's a brand new IP, such as, you know, a new Mario or whatever it might be, or a new Zelda, for instance. And I think that's the problem, isn't it? And that's why, you know, yourself and me, we've not picked up the Switch for a while. But
but we've got to look outside of ourselves, and we aren't the only representative of the Switch customer base. So I'm sure Nintendo are going to come out of it on top. But yeah, just as a fan, as a hardcore Nintendo fan, a little bit disappointed. But my friend from across the county, shall I move us on?
Yeah, bring us back to something we talk about pretty much every week.
Yeah, so yeah, at one point we were an unofficial Hideo Kojima channel, I think, with our coverage of Death Stranding and all things Kojima. But yes, the next topic is Kojima jumps ship.
What?
Insert Metal Gear Solid alert sound effect. So this article comes from VentureBeat, and this is what they had to say. Hideo Kojima and Microsoft have signed a letter of intent that states the two parties intend to work out the details on a publishing agreement for a new Xbox game, according to sources familiar with the matter. This is a key step in the negotiations between the Metal Gear Solid creator and the Xbox company. This signifies that both parties have agreed to a generalized deal while lawyers continue hashing out the finer points. Microsoft and Kojima's team have spent months discussing a possible partnership, and now it is more likely than ever that those conversations will bear fruit. The deal is so close that Microsoft has begun preparing for what Kojima will need to make his new game. As for what Kojima's game actually is, few people know. The point of the partnership is to unlock the creativity of Kojima Productions using Microsoft's technology, as opposed to greenlighting a specific pitch. So yes, Rich, I mean, I think as PlayStation fans, we were disappointed to hear about this story. I mean, this was in Bloomberg. No, not Bloomberg, VentureBeat, which good track record. So, you know, generally, I think this sounds like it must have credence behind it. But what are your initial reactions, Bud?
I guess in some respects disappointment, but I'm just wondering, reading some of the bits, especially the bit at the end about, you know, it's to do with using Microsoft technology as opposed to greenlighting specific like pitch or product. That is interesting, isn't it? That's really interesting. We know that Kojima Productions, when they made Death Stranding, they were loaned or given an engine to be able to make the game, and it does make me wonder whether, rather than teaming up with Microsoft to make specific products, whether they're going, we have Microsoft got a piece of technology that he wants to incorporate into it, whatever his next game will be. And that's why he's teaming up with Microsoft, because that's the only solution to do what he wants. I think it's interesting, and I think it's strange to understand this one, I think. Not just because of the fact, you know, we talk it all the time, we are Sony fans. That's been our bread and butter for years. But not that we have anything against Xbox. That's just how we've been. But it's interesting why Kojima, who's been so aligned with Sony and PlayStation for a long, long time, if you look back at the track record of even when he worked for Konami, it was always very aligned with PlayStation, as to why now suddenly he wants to change focus to Microsoft potentially. I find it hard to understand that and the reasoning behind that. So that does make me wonder whether there's more to this than we think.
I think I'm more annoyed with Sony for letting it happen if this is the case.
Yeah.
Because I've no doubt that Kojima would have happily carried on working with Sony, and I'm sure he really enjoyed using the Decima engine, as you mentioned there. I think perhaps it's just gone wrong in negotiations, or there's kind of rumours or gossip out there that Death Stranding didn't do the numbers that Sony were looking for from their investment in the project. And we know from Jim Ryan, from a lot of what he's been banging on about in recent times, they only want the blockbusters. They only care about the safe hits, and Death Stranding perhaps wasn't that. And was he proposing to make another equally experimental, creative game that they didn't want to invest in? And if that's the case, I think we've got to blame Sony for losing out. And he's gone to Xbox, and as we know, they're all about strengthening their games pipeline. And a creative like Kojima, perhaps there is an element of hit and miss with his hits. Now he's off leash and without the MGS franchise, but I'm always excited to see what he's going to do next. He's such a creative genius in that respect. And I feel like, mate, this might be utter bull, but I feel like he once talked about some of the potential of cloud gaming.
Yeah, I've heard him say that before. And this is why I mentioned about what he was saying, whether, we know he's interested in that piece of technology. Could it be that Sony can't offer him the technology he needs to make the game he wants to make? And that's why he's gone to Microsoft and said, listen, I need this technology to make this game. Have you got it? Can we come to a partnership on it?
It would be amazing it'd be really future thinking if Microsoft had snapped him up to try and create like a killer app for, cloud gaming. The Stadia mentioned it, didn't they? They were trying to talk up how Stadia and cloud computing is unique and allows you to do different things because you don't have the bandwidth issues. And it would be amazing if they get him working on something groundbreaking, revolutionary, and kind of sets that world on fire when they decide to push ahead with it. Is it Project X Cloud their iteration of cloud gaming?
Yes. But interesting.
Anyway, so to wrap it up, disappointing as Kojima and PlayStation fans, but good for Kojima and Kojima Productions. I'd like them to remain independent. I want to see Kojima push on and do his own thing, uninhibited. And it sounds like he's right in his own play there, doesn't he? So good for him.
The only thing I will say, I personally think Kojima is editing a trailer at the moment for something. I don't know what that is, whether it's more for the director's cut that we know that's Death Stranding is coming, but he's done this before on his Instagram, showed us little clips of Premiere Pro, which is an editing program. I definitely think there's something coming down the line for this. Whether that will be the full reveal of the director's cut, probably that's the most likely thing. So stay tuned for that in the coming weeks. You heard it here first, thanks.
Yeah, I think it's most likely that, isn't it? This sounds like it would be too early doors, unless he's creating a nice brand graphic again. You remember the whale jumping over there?
Nice.
We'll have to see.
Let's move us on.
Rich, finish us off.
So, Assassin's Creed Online, and this comes courtesy of Bloomberg. Assassin's Creed, a video game franchise set in a huge world where each one can take hundreds of hours to complete, is getting even bigger. A new project, which is known inside Ubisoft Entertainment SA by the codename Assassin's Creed Infinity, sets out to create a massive online platform that evolves over time according to people familiar with its development. Whereas previous Assassin's Creed games each unfold in specific historical settings, such as ancient Greece or
Ptolemaic Egypt. I've probably got that all wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. Ptolemaic Egypt. Infinity will contain multiple settings with room to expand to others in the months and years following its debut, said the people, who asked not to be identified, discussing a project under development. Individual games on the platform might look and feel different, but they will all be connected. A spokeswoman for Ubisoft declined to discuss Infinity in detail, but acknowledged its existence. Interesting. Ubisoft aims to exceed the expectations of fans who have been asking for a more cohesive approach to the series, the spokeswoman said. As for sexual misconduct claims, she said Ubisoft had investigated every allegation and took appropriate action. Service games generate huge revenue over time by hooking players and pushing them to spend money on special content within the game. GTA 5 helped drive shares of its publisher, Take-Two Interactive Software Incorporated, up 42% since the beginning of last year. In the same period, Ubisoft's shares were flat. After news of Assassin's Creed Infinity, the stock jumped to a gain Wednesday in intraday trading. So this is interesting. I sort of feel like this will be really cool. I love Assassin's Creed games. Some of them don't always hit the right mark for me, but I love the style and the gameplay for the most part. And I think if you are able to play that style of game as an online, like, evolving world, maybe even with your friends, I think that would be really cool. Especially if we know that the hint in the name, it's about assassinating people from stealth. Well, if those stealth missions are based around cooperative play with your friends, that sounds amazing. I don't know, what do you make of this, Tabs?
Yeah, so for me, mate, it's like a head and heart thing, which is an analogy we used last week. So, like, my heart says I really don't want to see a games industry, gaming landscape saturated with these games as a service sort of offerings. We talked, didn't we, last week about how we were frustrated that Rockstar's output and everything we're hearing about GTA 6 is so slow because they're putting all this energy, time and effort into their online offerings. But the head thing is, well, you can't blame Ubisoft because, they're just jumping on the bandwagon, aren't they? It's making, sorry, there's a fly in this room. Sorry, Barcadians, if you could see that. Yeah, they're just jumping on a bandwagon, which is going to make them a load of money, and we've already perhaps seen the tip of the iceberg with that in their share price just getting bumped. So, yeah, and as you say, glass half full, I mean, there's every possibility that this equates to a really good, fun Assassin's Creed experience for the fans of the series. And they could do some new things with it, and it's maybe a refresh for the actual developers as well. Nobody wants to stay stagnant, just banging out the same stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of split on it. That's my feeling. But we're not really fans, are we, of the series? Well,
no, to be fair, I maintain Black Flag is a fantastic game. I loved playing Black Flag, but the rest I've not seen enough to make me want to go and play. And especially with the last Assassin's Creed and the problems, that were in that game, it puts me off playing the games. You know what I mean? If I'm going to have even if the game's brilliant, but I'm going to have a rubbish time playing it because of the fact it's not well developed, that puts me off playing it. Like Cyberpunk, I'm sure you were put off playing it by the fact that you were experiencing all these glitches. One of our friends, he got it on the PS5 and he had so many problems with it, so that put me off it. So if it's glitch ridden, there's no point doing it for me. But hopefully this could be cool.
I wonder, mate. I don't know. I'm just thinking, what's that game we've been playing recently that you build stuff on? I've forgotten it altogether. It's a Viking game.
Valheim.
Valheim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if you could sort of see something along those lines. Obviously, the Viking theme is making me think of Valhalla. But yeah, I think there is a lot of potential there, and they're obviously wanting to compete. I think the likes of Fortnite and GTA Online have been mentioned, and getting on that scene. And obviously, they make a lot of money, don't they, monetizing after the fact.
Absolutely.
So we shall have to see. Let us know your thoughts, though, Barcadians, if you are Assassin's Creed fans, because I imagine it's going to split the fan base a little bit, this one.
Agreed. Right, we'll quickly whiz through everything else because we have well and truly overstayed our welcome this week. So a quick one into what for me was the biggest story of the week for me. Ghost of Tsushima is getting a sizable add-on in the form of a director's cut. and it will include a boost of graphics on the PS5, plus a new sizable, by the sounds of it, island where there's going to be more story and lots of things to explore, more Fox's Den type things to find. Really cool. A little bit of controversy because of the price of it. They're suggesting that it's a £20 DLC, which I personally think is pretty, if it's a sizable DLC download and it brings quite a lot to the game, I think that's reasonable cost. Lots of people have kicked off about that, but we got free multiplayer, like a big free multiplayer. I think they've given us enough like value for money already, so I think that's fine. What did you make of that, Tabs, very quickly?
Yeah, if it is 20 quid, then I think, and that island's fairly sizable, this bolt-on, feels pretty good value for me. And obviously PS5 enhancements. It was a game that got a really good reception, and I'm sure all of the fans will just be really pleased to hear about this.
Agreed.
And like you say, they gave us a free multiplayer.
Yeah.
So I already feel like, we got more than we bargained for anyway, investing in the original game. So yeah,
exactly.
Bit of a non-event there from the complainers' point of view, I would say. But and then next up, and to finish us off, Gears of War developer will show off an Unreal Engine 5 demo at GDC. Exciting times. We're both very impressed by that.
Absolutely. So that is the news this week. We've droned on for nearly 30 minutes, so I apologise for that, but we get carried away with these stories that we feel very passionate about, and we'd like to dig into them as deeply as we need to. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, definitely give us a like, because it really helps us grow and support the channel. And if you're new here, do give us a subscribe. We'd love to have you join us on the channel. And I think that's all we've got time for this week. Another one for the archive.
Stamped and completed.